Hello, my name is Reyes and this is my PowerPoint presentation examination. For my examination, I have chosen these slides on the basic knowledge of agricultural drones. So today we will talk about 6 items. First, we will talk about an introduction to agricultural drones. We'll describe the remote controller. We will then talk about the aircraft, and then we'll shift to the Global Navigation Satellite System, which is the GNSS, that is like the GPS plus some other satellites. We'll then talk about the battery and the spraying system. Alright, let's start with an introduction to agricultural drones in general and to the T-40 in particular. So we have multi-rotor agricultural drones. Okay, and these multi-rotor drones allow us to do crop and plant protection using a spraying system. It can spray pesticide. It can also spray or spread fertilizers, whether it be solid or liquid, and even seeds and fish seedings. Okay, and the advantages about it is it has a concise mechanical structure. It can do vertical takeoff and landing and hovering, just like, for instance, a helicopter, right? So instead of needing a runway, it only needs a small spot so it can take off, go away, and then land. Also, it can hover and remain in place, just like a helicopter. But unlike a helicopter, it's very easy for a normal person to use a drone like the DJI Agras T-40. So it's operational friendly. Okay, so the basic constitution of an agricultural drone composes of 3 elements: the remote controller, the aircraft, and the spraying system. We need a remote controller to control the aircraft. The aircraft is actually a vehicle. Its function is to carry the liquid or solid payload to the target crop, right? So we have like liquid or solid pesticide or fertilizer, and we want to go to the field and spray them or spread them on the field. So the aircraft is the vehicle to get there. What actually gets the job done is the spraying or spreading system, and its function is to spray or spread the payload over the target crop. Okay, so let's talk about the 2 main application scenarios. We can be either spraying liquid or spreading granules, but we cannot do both at the same time. Okay, so spraying liquid, you can do it with your aircraft by default, because all DJI aircraft come by default for spraying liquids. You can use spraying liquids to prevent growth of pests. You can use growth plant regulators, and you can even use them for pollination. On the other side, you can also spread granules, which are solid, okay, such as seeds, fertilizers, or fish feed. I'm sorry. Okay, so but there are the 2 main application scenarios. What is important to know is that you, by default, you can do spraying liquids with your drone. If you want to do spreading granules, you need to get a different tank, the spreading tank, which is not come with the aircraft standard. So and you need to do a little modifications, which are not hard at all, but it is important for you to know the difference. Okay, so normally when we talk about liquids, we say spraying, we spray liquids, and when we talk about solids or granules, we talk about the word spreading. All right, great. So what is the advantages and disadvantages of drone spraying or spreading? What are the principal characteristics? Here we have the advantages, and here we have some disadvantages, okay? So the advantages on this side, we have high efficiency, it is fast, it is also reliable, it has the same rate. We save up to 90% of water because we use less water to do the pesticide mixtures, so that helps the environment a lot. We avoid high usage of pesticides. We can use less pesticide than normally with manual operation, like people using manual pumps and things like that. And has a good adaptability to the terrain. So the terrain has like hills, the aircraft can use its radar to follow the terrain and go up and down the hills. That's on the side of the advantages. On the side of the disadvantages, which are not much, we have fine droplets. So we have to be very careful with like drift caused by wind. And we also use highly concentrated pesticide mixtures. So we always have to be careful to use the secondary dilution method to prepare our pesticide mixtures, right? That is not very hard. We can also teach you how to do that. For the moment, we just have to know about that. So advantages, efficiency, disadvantages, just being very careful about high concentration pesticide mixtures, and you always use secondary dilution. Also be very aware of drift caused by wind, okay? That is a risk. Now let's talk about the remote controller. The remote controller, in this case for the T40, has two antennas, has a large LCD screen, has the two joysticks on the left and the right, and you have the emergency stop button, the 5D custom button. Battery indicator is here, right? And you have three physical buttons, which are the ones on the left are adjustable, which is really cool. They're physical, so even if you're like sweaty or something, you just press them and they're gonna like they're not gonna do false triggers and things like that. All right, so it's really cool. Now, if you see the remote controller from the top, this is the remote controller, okay? So we're seeing it from like this direction, all right? So we have the different buttons here. I'm not going to go over all the buttons, you can read them from the PowerPoint presentation, okay? So I will talk about them more in detail in a future section. For the moment, you know, there's like different buttons here. We can also connect a network card, like a 4G network card, so you can use like 4G internet in most places, so you don't need Wi-Fi. It has three stick modes as usual. Most people fly with mode 2, some people fly with mode 1. The difference between mode 1 and 2 is pretty much the throttle and pitch, they're reversed, right? So here you have throttle, pitch, and then you swap them and have pitch, throttle. Because yaw and roll really remain the same between mode 1 and mode 2. Mode 3, I don't know anyone who's flown mode 3, but most people, we do fly mode 2, okay? Something important about the remote control antennas is to never point them towards the aircraft, right? So you can either point them up or point them down, but never towards the aircraft. Okay, so bath reception either up or down. Let me show you. All right, so here, you either want to have them like this or like this, all right? But never like this. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the aircraft. Okay, so this is DJI Agras T40. It's a very significant aircraft. What's different between previous models, we have coaxial motors. So we have one motor on top and one motor on the bottom. What's very important to remember is like the propellers, they're not the same on the top and the bottom. They're different. We have to be very careful about that. You can see the marks. So the ones on the top have like solid marks, and the ones on the bottom has like a black strip on the orange marks. Okay, so we have as usual the RTK antennas on the back of the aircraft. We have a 40-liter tank. We have an omnidirectional obstacle radar to avoid collision with obstacles. And we have an HD camera that this time has a gimbal, so you can like rotate up or down. And it's really cool for like when you want to go map a field, you can take the aircraft in manual mode and you can use the gimbal to like look down exactly where the field ends and then just pick that coordinate for your polygon for your map. And it's pretty cool. All right, let's see here. As usual, we have ESCs. We have 2 ESC per arm this time because we have 2 motors per arm. And what's important, we have the centrifugal nozzles, which we did not have in previous models, like the T20 or the T30. The centrifugal nozzles allow you like a very like fine mist kind of spraying ability, and it's very interesting that you can play with the droplet size by changing the speed, which is basically like the target droplet size. But you can do it like mid-flight, which is really cool for like wind. When you like, if you don't have wind, you want to like a small droplet sometimes. But if there's wind, you can like switch to a bigger droplet size. And the cool thing about centrifugal nozzles, they allow you to do that while you're spraying like in the middle of the mission. And you didn't have that with previous models. In previous models, you will have to actually change the nozzle. Like in the T20 or T30, you have to change the different nozzles to get different droplet size. But with these centrifugal nozzles, you don't need that. You can like do it from the remote control, which is very, very cool and very helpful. All right, here we have a slide on the motors and their directions. This is quite a technical slide, but what you need to understand is just like, unlike previous models, we have coaxial motors, which one motor on top, one motor on the bottom. And that never happened before, but now we're doing it, and it's going to work great. You just have to be very careful about the directions in which they're installed. Always check while doing maintenance that the directions are correct. All right, so for this aircraft, we have interesting things about radar and vision. We have two primary radars. The first one is located on the nose. It's like the cylinder that you will see on the nose. And the secondary radar is located on the back. And you have two radars here. You have a downward looking radar and then a backward looking radar, right? So here you see the aircraft from behind, and the aircraft is looking at you from behind. So a backward radar, downward radar. Here you have two radars also. You have the omnidirectional radar and you have the upward looking radar. The upward looking radar, as usual, helps you if you get like below like a power line or something, so you don't like hit the line, which will be terrible. You do, this time you have this binocular vision system, which is two binocular cameras. They take pictures, calculate the differences between them to calculate like how far or close you're from an object, like an obstacle. They are very good when they work. You have to be careful to keep them clean. You have to clean them every some number of flights. You have to make sure to keep them clean. Otherwise, if they get blurred, you don't get the advantages of auto obstacle bypassing, right? So, also you have the LED spotlights here. They're very good for like spraying fast at the end of the night. There's some different opinions about whether it's a good idea or bad idea to spray at night. I'm not going to talk about that, but you do have two very powerful LED spotlights, and as you should, the camera with the gimbal. Okay, now we'll continue talking about the Global Navigation Satellite System, GNSS. As usual, basically, GNSS is GPS plus GLONASS plus Beidou plus Galileo. There's 4 constellations from different countries, so you get like the best possible triangulation and precision on coordinates. And it is for free. We mostly, in my country, we mostly use GNSS. We spray fields are at least 10 hectares in average. So like GNSS coordinates usually will get the job done. Even there's small drifts will be normally no problem unless you have obstacles, right? And some people do want higher accuracy. They can use RTK, real-time kinematics. You need the drone, the remote control, and also an RTK base, which is mounted normally on a tripod. It is a fixed base, it cannot move. And you get really precise positioning with this thing. No, honestly, I've never tried it, but I've heard it's really good. It's necessary for like orchard mode. It's very, very necessary for orchard mode, so yeah. Okay. So how does RTK work? Again, you need an RTK mobile station, and you will have the remote control of the aircraft as usual. The base station basically transmits the precise positioning from it to the remote control, then to the aircraft, and yeah, you have to keep them in line of sight and everything. You also have the advantage of RTK orientation, just like in previous models like the T20 and T30. You have these RTK orientation through the differential positioning of the antennas. And here, right? So there's like a distance between them. It measures the different GPS coordinates to get the orientation of the aircraft, right? The orientation is like the heading, where it's going. And it's much better than using the compass. So always try to like have RTK orientation enabled, because it's a lot better than a compass. It is interference proof. Okay, it is very hard for the interference to jam the RTK dual antennas, unlike the compass, which is it is susceptible to interference. Now we can talk about battery charge devices. Let's go quickly over it. Basically, you have a 12,000 watt generator. It is in the same package with the charging station, and you basically get the generator plus a charger in the same package. It's 12,000 watts max output, and you use them to charge these batteries, right? What about batteries? Basically, you get always be careful with like low temperatures, high temperatures. Cycle count is the same as like previous models. Every time you consume 75% of the battery, then charge again, and we count it as one cycle. If you consume more than 75, well, we count it as a little bit more of a cycle. And if you consume less than 75, again, it's proportional, right? We will consider less of one entire cycle. Always avoid landing at very low battery level. Avoid landing below 15%. In general, the T40 now has warranty for 1,500 cycles or 1,500 cycles. This is 50% over the previous generation, the T30, which it had a warranty for only 1,000 cycles. So with 15,000 cycles, like it will last for a long time. Like 15,000 cycles, it's a very significant number, and it's 50% above the previous generation of T30. Now, what is important about this model, you gotta keep in mind, always use the air-cooled heat sink. It comes with the aircraft, in the same package as the aircraft, and it functions to dissipate away the heat, so the battery does not overheat while you're charging it. When you're charging a battery, you're putting energy into it, and if you do not dissipate heat, it'll heat up, and it will not last long, okay? So you have to always use the air-cooled sink. It comes with a plug. We'll go over it a little bit later in more detail. And now, because of time, we're talking about spraying system. So a spraying system is composed of like these 6 elements. These, by the way, these slides are from the T6, T20, T30. If we're talking about the T40 right now, we don't have these fan kind of nozzles. We have spray nozzles, right? So let me just go over. Okay. Basically, nozzle difference, right? So in the T16, T20, T30, we had these pressure nozzles, which were low drift, low cost, low maintenance, highly stable, but the problem is that droplet size couldn't be adjusted in flight. You can only change droplet size by actually changing the nozzles. Whereas with the new centrifugal spraying system, with the T40 and the T20P, we get that the droplet size can be adjusted directly from the remote control app. And then you can do it like in the middle of flight, in the middle of mission, as a function of wind conditions as the pilot seems fit. These advantages, it has a little bit lower penetrability. But if you use the right droplet size, you go a little bit up in droplet size, you can achieve like normal penetrability. It does have a high cost, higher maintenance cost. You gotta be careful because you have a motor here, and you gotta be careful as well, seal doesn't get corroded. But you get like a very, very better spraying distribution. All right. So what about pumps? So in the T16, T20, we used to have these membrane pumps. They were good, but you have to be very careful for pesticides not to be viscous, because like if they were a little bit like too heavy, like they will like jam the pumps. For the T30, DJI went on to the plunger type pump, or it's also called piston kind of pump, and it a lot bigger flow rate. It has, but the pesticide, the thing that it used to get corroded sometimes because like they have in the same package the motor and the pump. Whereas in the T40 and T20P, we have the same pellet pump that is magnetically driven. So it's like physically the motor is physically separated from the actual pump, the pump turbine, and it's more resistant to corrosion, more resistant to like a hard work than the T30 or T16 or T20 used to be. So obviously, never work them without liquid. I mean, with air. Never try to pump something that's not a liquid with them. Otherwise, it will jam them or even like break them. For load monitoring, we have now a weight kind of system. So instead of measuring a float level like in the T30, we're now measuring like the weight of liquid, which is a little bit more reliable because it doesn't involve putting something in that tank that you have to clean all the time. So yeah, a little bit less cleaning with this kind of weight sensors. And we also have a single point level gauge in the bottom of the tank to make sure like the pumps do not like let air into the pumps. So this is a really cool thing. Like it's to float, and whenever it goes down, it means like there's no more liquid and the pump's stuck right there. So it doesn't like swallow air, which is bad, obviously. So we have a centrifugal spraying system. We have two types of discs. We have either dual layer spraying disc configuration or single layer configuration. So normally, depending on your use, if you're spraying herbicides, you probably want to use a single layer to get like bigger droplets. And if you're spraying like fungicides or insecticides, you probably want to go with smaller droplets with like the dual layer spraying tray. All right. So and then here we have the table on the rotating speeds. As I mentioned in the T40, now you can like change droplet size, average droplet size, by changing the speed, which you can do it easily by changing it in the remote control. You can do it during flight, during a mission. And so for example, if you're spraying with like fine and you see there's a lot of wind, you can like jump to medium for a while. So like with a bigger droplet size, there's less drift. And or you can even jump to coarse or things like that. You can like play with the droplet size while you're spraying, which is really, really good for like improving spray quality in general. Right? This is a table on the previous nozzles. The nozzles that were used in the T20, T30. So let's not go over that again. And yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it didn't run too much over time. Have a great one.